We have a very special introduction today, and first introduction is always special to me. It's Florence Carmela, my partner. How are you, Florence?
I'm doing great, Jim. How are you?
I am excellent. I am so beyond excited about today's episode. I've talked to some great people today, and last week we had some great interviews, and this one is like one of the most important that we've done in a long time.
Yes, I'm very excited about our guest tonight. We have Yukon Men star and author Stan Zuray, and from the Discovery Channel, we have producers and husband and wife filmmakers Ryan and Kari Walsh. How are you guys?
Good. How are you?
Hello.
Good.
To be on.
We are so excited
nice.
that you guys are on. It really is a special thing for us. I know we threw this together and kind of put you guys under pressure, but I'm really looking forward to all your answers. Ryan and Kari, what was your relationship with Stan? When did it first start? And when did you first start thinking about doing a series on the great Stan Zuray?
Well, it started back in 2012. I was hired to work on Discovery Channel's Yukon Men, and not knowing much about the lifestyle up in interior Alaska, I went up there and, started working. And I was paired with Stan in the beginning, for a short little shoot. We ended up going out to his trapping cabin with him and Joe, his son Joe, actually, for a moose hunt. And at night, sitting around the campfire in a small little cabin, back gate cabin, I just started asking Stan questions about him, his life, everything about him, and just these stories just came pouring out, not in a way of Stan boasting at all, but just, oh, I did this, or oh, what happened in your past here? Where did you grow up? All the stuff just came out. It was almost immediately, when I first met Stan, that I thought, there's so much here, and I was excited to work on the show and try and bring a lot of those stories to the show, but also just excited to be hanging out with him and learning from him. And that's kind of, I think, when this all kind of started, is that very early on in the conversations with him, I knew there was, if I ever had the chance, I wanted to make a project just about Stan.
Oh, wow.
Now, Kari, why don't you explain, because usually us men are always on the forefront, but usually the backbone of any project is the wife and the partner. You tell me what your passion is about this project with Stan that we will be talking about. What is the passion behind this for you?
Well, so I myself am an actor in Los Angeles. I'm also a writer and a producer. And Ryan has been talking about making this documentary forever, since 2012. But he was working on the show for like 5-6 years. And so was like loyal to Discovery, loyal to the show. But like he said, like he would call me from Alaska and just be like, Stan and I did this today. Stan and I did that today. And he was just, it was so adorable. They just like had like this really cute bond together. And he would tell me some of the stories, and they were just like the best buds. And he would always say like, oh, I really want to make a documentary just on, or, specifically focused on Stan, because the show didn't go, the show like did a wonderful job of showing the lifestyle, but, he wanted to get like super specific and really dive into like Stan's life. And I was like, always like, oh, okay, cool. And then the show, was canceled, it ended. And a little time went by, and he was like, I think this is the right time to do it, because Discovery's going to take this any further. Now we can really tell a story that we wanted to tell. And so it was originally just Ryan. He was going to do this whole thing by himself. And he would, I don't know, like he'd be working on the road and call me and have like ideas, like, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And then I started to get excited with a whole bunch of ideas that I wanted to put into the project. And then I finally one night asked him, like, would it be okay if I jumped on as a producer? I just got like so excited about it. And he was like, absolutely. So here we are working together, and we've worked together before, but it's usually Ryan is just such a talented camera guy, and he sometimes shoots some of the projects that I'm in.
Mm-hmm.
But
nice.
This is the first time we've both behind the scenes together, and it's been such a blast. It's such a rewarding thing to do, with my husband, but also just in general, not being the one in front of the camera, like being behind it and really just playing the producer part. It's just been so much fun. So I'm really enjoying it, and we're working really well together, I think, so far. We haven't killed each other yet, so that's good.
Always good. Yeah.
That's great. Now, Stan, I was just curious, for all of your fans out there, for the millions of fans who watched Yukon Men, tell us about your experience filming the show.
Well, I really enjoyed it. I often have said something like this, but, I spent 40-something years, traveling mostly by myself. Once in a while, I'd go hunting with somebody. But, most of the trappers up here, it's not like, in the books you read about the far north where you always have a trapping partner and a hunting partner. A lot of times there's not enough game to have a partner, and so you would travel by yourself. So I spent 40 years spending most of my time, just outdoors with my dogs. And it was really enjoyable to be out with these camera guys, and the guys that they would send out with us, like Ryan. I use the term, I don't know if I've coined it or got it somewhere, but world-class outdoorsmen. They traveled with us, and oftentimes they probably wondered how can we set traps at 30 below or 40 below. How can we handle doing things with the dogs and the snaps and the lines? But I always looked at them and said, how the heck can they manipulate those cameras and those buttons with those tiny gloves on? And I mean, these guys were something else. And so it wasn't like I ever felt I was taking care of somebody. I mean, maybe once in a while, because it's my country or something like that, I would know things, how far it is to the next cabin. So I would know when to, if I it was getting cold, if I needed to stop and light a fire and something a little better than they did, But I mean, basically, these guys didn't slow us down. It was like having a partner, and they just traveled with us. And Ryan might be out in the hills a half mile away or a mile away, up in these high hills, setting up a tripod. And I'd look up there and I'd see him way up there, and he'd be filming me going down the hill. I'd just be traveling, then he'd catch up to me with his snow go and get ahead of me, and he knew where every trap was on my trap line, and if I caught something, he'd stop and wait for me and get me pulling up to the set. And it was really casual. It wasn't like we made up things. We just, whatever we found. And it was that way with a lot of the other camera guys I traveled with. They sent the best ones out with us because we were going, well, they had to, these guys knew, how to handle themselves in the cold. And I think I always get a kick out of, like, I often think that the reason Ryan ended up going with me so much in the end was because there's something about Ryan that, is kind of unique, I may have some of this wrong, but I don't think the guy's ever had a beer in his life. He doesn't, smoke cigarettes. He doesn't, I don't even think he's ever drank coffee, or maybe he's tasted it. I don't know, but, I'm kind of the same way. I mean, I certainly didn't grow up that way in Boston. I was used to do all sorts of bad things, But when I moved to the woods, I kind of like gave up all that stuff, and I just enjoy life. I don't, and so Ryan, and me, we kind of fit together good. We didn't, maybe some other camera guy would get bored hanging around with me because I never even drink a beer, So it was there's kind of something unique about Ryan, and but he gets the work done. He's really a
Well, another thing that I'm very proud of you for is your book, Carry On, Stan Zuray's Journey from Boston Greaser to Alaskan Homesteader, 205 reviews, all 5 stars. That's amazing on Amazon. I loved the book. I loved your story. What was the thing that really, really got you wanting to write a book about your life?
Okay. Well, first off, I am an author on it, but it's I guess the way books go is you can even have like something like a ghostwriter who writes a book and make it look like you wrote it. Well, this book isn't like that. It's kind of this other guy, a real writer, Tim Attewell.
Yeah, Tim.
Tim. He wrote the book, and there are some paragraphs and sections at the beginning of some of the chapters that I wrote, and that's my words, but I can't write. I've been told that by other people when they read my stuff, if I have to write something, and Tim, there's been a number of people throughout my life who have said, gee, I should write that's an interesting story. You moving to Alaska and living out in the woods, that would make an interesting story. Gee, would you ever, I wouldn't mind writing a story like that. And I'd say, yeah, go ahead. And I've even given a number of different people material that I had, which would help them write it, but nothing has ever materialized. And when Tim said he would do it, it was the same thing. And I of course, it was later in my life, and I also had a lot more material. And he gave it a go, and for 2 years, he worked on it. He worked on it steady and was in constant contact with me. And after a while, I got a feeling this is really going to happen. But, there was always the question of how good of a writer is he, because even when I read his writing, I can't tell a good writer from a bad writer. I've read so few books in my life. I often tell people I've probably read 15 books in my entire life. And that's true. I've got through high school and 3 years of college, and I never read probably more than 15 books in my life. And it's just, I can't, so, but the reason that I was for it is because I always felt it would be kind of cool to, whether it was a good book or not, or poorly written, it would be kind of cool to have a book that when I was long gone, my grandkids and great-grandkids would maybe have something about somebody that moved to Alaska from Boston, and that was what I wanted out of the deal, somebody who could put all that together in a story. And
so, Stan, speaking of your grandchildren, what part does family play in your Alaskan lifestyle?
Well, especially up here in the village, it's family plays a lot in all families, I guess. But, up here, it's really major, like living in a village like this, especially, with so much extended family, because, it's like if you go far enough back, almost everybody is related, and it's just amazing, But it's major, we got kids in the house here all the time, we got, sometimes they're sleeping here, sometimes they're sleeping down at the house. Last 2 nights we've had 2 of the grandkids just sleeping here, and just because they wanted to, and it's really fluid like that.
Now, Stan, what does this project mean to you personally? I know that your story has really touched a lot of people, and I really appreciated all the things you said because I enjoyed interviewing Kate and her views on you and the family and just how important it was to her. What does this project that Ryan and Kari are doing mean to you?
Well, it's again, I don't know. It's like even the Discovery Yukon Men show. When it was first an idea and they contacted me, it was just, I like to see things happen, especially like you always want them to be positive, you know. And with the Yukon Men show, and again with this one, it's like an opportunity to show a lifestyle that I really value, and I think is you know, a hardworking, ethical lifestyle, but it is one that is very misunderstood, I feel, by, you know, modern generations here, and it's often looked down on, and I don't think it deserves that. And so it's an opportunity for me to show it in a true light, you know, a better light than it's been shown in. And it's a passion for the lifestyle is what it is. Hey, the money was nice when we were doing Yukon Man. It was a good part-time job. You know, this project, you know, we've talked about, we may not even ever see a personal cent. It's just we are trying to, you know, make it possible because, you know, personally, none of us can afford all the expenses that we incur. But, you know, it's just a passion. It's just like with Ryan and Kari. It's a passion, you know, and we just want something positive to happen.
Yeah. We got a few more questions for Ryan and Karen. I know you're busy, Stan, so we're going to let you.
I'm not. I want this to be as good as you want it to be.
Fantastic, Stan. I always feel bad. I know you got so much to do. The thing that I really wanted to talk about too is there's a lot of things like you talked about. Some people have, I mean, let's face it, when you're on social media or any type of thing like this, people will come down on you with some sort of negativity. What would you like people to talk about? Because to me, you guys have more respect for the land and for animals and for everything than anyone I've really ever seen. And what does all this, the negativity that has come, what do you want to say to people like that? What this stuff means to you and the importance of all this? What do you want to say to people that may be, oh, wow, this may not be all that great? What do you want to say to those people?
Is that for Stan or is that for?
Yeah, that's for Stan.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, here we go. You know, really, like, you know, if you go to like my Facebook and stuff, and I'll post some pictures, even you know, hunting, not just fishing pictures, but, you know, things like trapping pictures and hunting pictures, you know. And I know a lot of those fans, some of them were maybe actually even anti-hunters in the past, and once in a while you get a little negativity, but really it's amazing all the people who have said to me, you know, I don't even eat meat. I don't believe in it. I've never believed in hunting, but, you know, I can respect what you're doing, and I like watching your show, and I've gotten that over and over and over again. So I think we have made a lot of headway amongst a lot of people and shown it in a good light. And to those who are, you know, real negative, you know, really there's not too much you can say, you know. Yeah. I don't know what to say to people like that. Sometimes sometimes I'll say, well, I guess, you know, somebody from the city will say, you know, something about our lifestyle is terrible, that we're killing these animals and stuff. And I'll just say, well, you know, maybe one of these days I'll become a better person and live a more renewable lifestyle like you are doing, you know.
As
you know, I mean, what do you say to people like that, you know? But I think we have, through the show and them watching it and through the Facebook posts and stuff, we have changed a lot of minds, you know. And it is amazing to me the lack of negativity that I do run into. Even in the Yukon Men show, it was pretty amazing that we didn't run into more, because
I think it was due to you, Stan, and the rest of the people, because I've never hunted in my life. I'm total city boy in the mean streets of Napa Valley, and we are, not pretty sheltered. And when I saw that, I didn't understand it at first. And then when I saw the way that you acted and the respect that you had, and the Athabascan people just the great pride they had in their family, and they didn't waste anything of the animal. They respected everything. They're very thankful. That changed my mind, because when I first saw your show, I said, I don't think I'm going to watch this. And then when I said, I'm going to give him a chance, and I totally was sold. So I was one of those that kind of, I mean, I didn't go online and say this stinks, but it got me, where people like you and people like others, it just is amazing how you changed people's minds, and the positivity about the show was just fantastic. Now, Stan, another thing, you know what the main questions that people ask me before I put out my article is, what do you have where you live? Do you have Wi-Fi? Do you have internet? Do you have a TV? Are you running around in Fred Flintstone cars? I mean, what exactly do you have in your house?
Well, it depends on where I am. If I have probably 3 different places I am. In the winter, I'll either be at home or on the trap line, and then summer I'm at my fish camp. And they all have, when I'm at home in Tanana, I mean, there are telephone poles with electric lines on them, and there's a central generator in town. It's only 200 people in town, so it's not a big generator, but it provides power. And we have freezers that we store our food in the fall, and then shut them off in winter. And there's as far as like internet goes, I mean, it's not real good internet. Actually, it doesn't matter where you are in Alaska or almost anywhere in these rural areas anymore, because of things like these little satellite dishes that pick up, internet,
Sure.
And stuff. And you can be 100 miles out in the middle of nowhere and have one. And I know people who have no running water, no one-room cabins, wood heat, and they have internet. It's not good internet, and the amount per day is like incredibly small. You couldn't even watch a single movie in a day without going over your limit. But I mean, it at least it gives you email and communication and stuff like that, which is the main thing. And I mean, we don't have. I live in Tanana here. I don't have running water. I go and haul my water from the river or from the laundromat. We fill up a big tank and then fill up all these buckets in the house here. So we don't even have running water here. We got wood heat, and I have a backup oil stove for when I leave the house for a couple of days. But yeah, we got a lot of, it's pretty fancy in town. At fish camp, we have none of that. Creek water and stuff, and on the trap line have, even less, but.
All right.
And for the first 11 years of my life, I lived out basically on what you might say is the trap line. That's where I live year round, So it just depends on where you are, but it's not, you can't really say it's off the grid.
Now, 2 questions some of the the old-time Yukon Men fans had. One was, how has the land recovered from the fire? And 2, how has the opening of the road changed your area, especially the hunting grounds?
Yeah, the fires, I think we are starting, and I've talked to a lot of people about this. It's actually a subject of conversation in the village and in the surrounding villages too, because they were also affected by the same fires. But it seems like these areas that burnt were like mature growth black spruce forests, which black spruce forests aren't really, it's not tall timber. It's actually kind of a short tree, they don't support a lot of willows and grass and stuff like that. Well, that all burnt. Most of this acreage that burnt was this black spruce forest. And what's happening now is, I mean, immediately actually, it started coming up in grass. And within 1 year, the next year, there was a lot of grass, and then little willows started growing. What's happening is, it seems like there's a lot of voles, which bunch of like little mice up here. That's what, we call the mice up here. They're voles and lemons and stuff like that. And that's all growing back, and there seems to be a lot more rabbits being supported by this land. And what's happening is that's increasing the predators, like your marten, which is which is one of our most we call it the bread and butter of trapping. We catch a lot of them, and they're easy to catch, and and they multiply real fast. But these predators like lynx and marten and wolves, they live off of these kind of things. So me and my son this year have had one of the best trapping seasons we've had for the amount of miles that we have put out ever. I think in my 45 years, it's probably the best trapping I've had, because I'm driving around in all this burnt forest. It looks terrible when you're driving through it, but underneath in the ground is like all of these mice that are living under there, and the marten are traveling through there and catching all these mice. They dig down through the snow and they travel under the snow, and they just and as far as that's kind of like what's happening with the fire. So there is some positive things happening because of that. Just like people say, sometimes fires improve land in some ways. As far as the road goes, it's a really frontier road. That's what the state calls it, and that's what it is. It blows in a lot. A lot of times it's not open. It takes a good four-wheel drive truck to be able to maneuver it. It's very narrow. You can get stuck easy. People spend hours sometimes getting unstuck and having to shovel through drifts. It's a lot of work for the city and tribal council up here to keep it open on the river. We keep our end open, and then DOT, the state, they keep the main road open. But there's a river road that's 6 miles that really blows in really bad, and it's really hard to maintain. We keep that part open, and the thing is it is only connected to town. That 6 mile stretch is untravelable except from, say, mid-December when the ice freezes enough to sometime in April when it thaws. And that's the only time, that little stretch in there of months is the only time it's connected to town. So it doesn't have the influence of a regular connected road, We don't. It's mostly used by townspeople and people who used to live here or have family connections to the town. You see very few, just regular outsider travelers traveling on it. It's added a little. There's been a few problems with people trapping on other people's areas, a little bit, but not too bad. The big difference I see is there's a lot more trucks in town here because it's so easy. Instead of having to pay $1,500 or whatever to barge a truck into town here, people can just drive in another junk truck to have for the riding around the village. So there's a lot more trucks around, but it hasn't had that big of an influence, I think, in the town. As far as like any kind of bad things going on.
That's fantastic. Well, Stan, we so appreciate. We're going to get back to Kari and Ryan and ask them some questions. We so appreciate your time, and we are going. Florence and I are just on a mission to make however little part we can to make this happen, because I followed you for a long time, been a long-time fan of yours and of Yukon Men and of your family. I hope everyone's healthy and well and things are going good, and thank you for your time. We're going to get back to Kari and Ryan, and Florence and I just so appreciate it.
Yes, thank you so much.
All right. Good meeting you two guys and talking to you over the phone here. And
all right. Take care, Stan.
Thank you, Stan.
That was Stan's Yukon Men. And now we're going to get back. And Ryan, I have some very serious questions that some people have given to ask you. First of all, does Discover make you go to Alaska, or is it something that you actually chose? How do you get to be a photographer, a camera person do you get to choose, or do they ask you?
Well, it's a little bit of both. I think it starts with you choose. I actually reached out. I had a friend who worked on Yukon Men and saw that he was working on the show, and I watched a couple episodes and was like, wow, man, I'd totally be into this. This seems like a fun thing to do. So reached out to him, and they needed someone to go up there. And, it's not an easy show to work on in those conditions for sure. And a lot of people have a difficult time with it. And I just was lucky enough to fit right in. And then once, you kind of prove yourself that you can do it, then the phone calls keep coming for, hey, we've got another Alaska show. And
wow,
we've got this show here and it's extreme conditions. And then you just kind of, go from there. So
can I also just say one thing? When
Sure.
Ryan first started working, he would send me pictures of his sleeping bag in the snow and say, this is where I slept last night underneath the stars when it was like negative 20 degrees.
Wow.
There was a
God.
really big cabin behind him. I'm like, why did you sleep in the cabin? He's like, I love sleeping underneath the stars. So he's very modest, but he's just like totally wired and built for this kind of lifestyle, which makes him.
That's
So
amazing.
he's become like one of like the go-to guys. I feel like all like Alaska projects have been, in the last few years, he's like one of the go-to guys because he just thrives in it. He loves it. I don't understand it, but he loves it.
I'm with you, Kari. Being a good California boy, I don't even like opening the freezer. So, sleeping in Alaska doesn't. Now, Ryan, everyone also was asking, when you guys are on a hunt, when they're actually in a cabin, do you guys have your own food? Do you guys have your own sleeping arrangements? Like Kari was saying, you slept under the stars in a sleeping bag. Are you guys kind of singing camp songs, or are you guys literally in different areas when you go to bed?
On Yukon Men, we're with them. We are right there with them. And this was so nice about Stan too, is I ate what he ate. He is such a giving person that he would always pack in his food box extra food for me. And as much time as I spent up there, it's like that's the fish strips, the salmon, the handful of times when I first went out with him, he had a grizzly bear sausage. And I was lucky enough to have that opportunity because I love that stuff, and it's a kind of a unique thing to have and to eat all the time. So I would eat the food that he brought mostly. And then, I'd be sleeping right a lot of times on the floor, in these small little trapping cabins, we would squeeze ourselves in there and literally right there with him the whole way.
Mm-hmm. Discovery, they're obviously making a lot of money. They could afford it. Do they give you a lot of your supplies and what food did they give you? And or do you have to buy your own stuff? And another question a fan had, how heavy was your camera?
First, the food, they would fly when we were in the village. We stayed at a house in the village, and they would fly food in for us, which was helpful. And then we'd supplement with, everyone, Stan, Charlie. They would. It seemed like every so often they knew when we would be wanting it. They'd bring over a full salmon for us, or some moose meat, or something like that. They really looked after us. And then as far as the camera goes, they're actually fairly light cameras in comparison to some other projects and cameras. But I'd say probably 10 to 15 pounds with the audio equipment and everything on it.
Now, also, when I did the article with Stan, what amazed me was your interaction with the people of Tanana and how close you became. Explain that relationship with the people there, because there's really only 200 people and there's really self-sufficient. They really have to rely on each other. Talk about your relationship with the people there.
The relationship with the people was one of the biggest, if not the biggest thing I'll take away from being up there and working on the show. Just because in a village that size, we relied on them and they in turn relied on us as well. So it was a very mutual relationship where there'd be potlatches if somebody passed away, or a memorial potlatch. And it was so nice that everyone in the community expected us to be there, and we felt, we were coming into their home, we were coming into their village. So we were, in a sense, outsiders. And, those are very personal times. And they demanded that we were there, expected us there. And so we'd go with, one of the great things about the potlatches they had is you were expected also to show up with plenty of gallon-size Ziploc bags, because you will be leaving with leftover food.
Wow.
And, so they were very, once it took a little while, but once they really got to know us and we got to know them, it was a very respectful relationship, and everyone helped each other out. We were part of the community. We would do all these events, like I said, and it was a really, really great experience.
Were you there when the fire occurred?
I came in toward the end of that. They had, I don't remember why, but they had a couple people stay up during the summer. And I think for some reason I wasn't one of the couple people, but I came in toward the end, once I think it was kind of okay and the fire was, dwindling down.
Oh, wow. Kari, do you ever kind of wonder when he's in these areas, because obviously he can't communicate with you very well? What are your kind of thoughts when he says, well, I'm going to Alaska and I'm sleeping in 20 below zero, eating salmon? What's your thoughts about all that? Has there ever been a time where you kind of just thought, wow, he's crazy, I'm worried about this? Or do you kind of shrug your shoulders and say, oh, well, there's nothing I can do? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, of a lot of that. There's been a lot of scary stories to come when he comes home. He's like, oh, I didn't tell you about this thing that happened. And I'm like, no, you didn't. And, and sometimes they get because it's a very challenging, dangerous lifestyle. And like he said, like they'll be, on hunts for a week. And I won't talk to him for a week. And I just have to be like, no call is better than any call, I suppose.
Yeah.
Something went wrong, and then just when he comes back, he calls me right away and says, okay, we're fine, we're back, in town. And I definitely worry. Ryan is a very, very, very smart person, and I know that he would never do something out of his comfort zone that he doesn't feel safe with. So, I trust him to make the best decisions when he's out there. Obviously, he's with Stan, he's with Pat, he's with Charlie, he's with all these people who, and Courtney, they know what they're doing, so that makes me feel better as well. And he knows what he's doing, and after the first couple years, the first couple seasons, it was just like, oh yeah, okay, you're going back to Alaska, and I've been up there a few times to visit, and I've been in Canada, and I think just seeing it and seeing how wonderful the community is, and how everybody is very smart and very safe and very practical, I think like puts my mind at ease as well, knowing that, everyone's looking out for each other. But it's definitely, it's crazy. It's a really different life. Cause I'm from near you, from San Jose, and then I moved to Los Angeles, an even bigger city. So those are the only those are the only two homes I've ever known. So obviously Tanana is just like a total culture shock for me. I don't know what to say. Like but it's a wonderful, it's a wonderful village, wonderful community. And yeah, I don't know. It would definitely, I get worried about him. I get worried about him when he's working anywhere. Ryan travels the world to work. And just last year, he was in Africa and Hong Kong and Mexico. He was all over the place. And I'm always worried. And he knows what he's doing. So
yeah, that's good. And Ryan, also, people in California, like I said, and everyone else, we can get real spoiled with a lot of the technology that's going on today. I mean, there has been accidents, the tragic airplane accident that took one of the pilots that I think was looking for Joey at one time, and Stan, when they had lost one of the relatives, when the snowmobile got stuck in the water and he drowned. I mean, explain some of the dangers that these guys go through. I mean, just even hunting, I mean, there could be a bear right next to you and you don't even know it. Explain some of the dangerous things that they have in life there, especially flying. I don't know if you flew in any small planes. Boy, it's one of the most dangerous places to fly a plane.
Yeah, I have been in a couple small ones over the years up there. And yeah, I mean, Alaska is one of those places that's so remote, particularly the interior of Alaska, and the temperatures are so extreme, particularly in the winter, makes the normal activity dangerous. And if a little thing goes wrong, that could be it, you know. So everyone is smart up there with what they do, but at the same time, you know, there's a lot of things. There's bears, there's the cold, there's in the spring and the fall when the river's freezing up. That's dangerous because you don't know if the ice is thick or thin. And if you go through, there's a current that's going to just pull you under. There's no way you're getting out. It's just going to drag you down underneath the ice. It's just, you're remote. You don't have a lot of support. So you have to be self-sufficient and really, really look out.
Yeah. Now, before we end this and we talk about the project one last time, I have been told by many people that is the best salmon they've ever tasted up there. What are some of the really good foods that you had up there?
Oh man, anything you can get your hands on. Yeah, the salmon, the fish strips, the dried or the smoked fish strips are amazing, and everyone has their little spin on them. Me particularly, Pat Moore's kipper, I love. Charlie Jard's Stan's smoked strips. You know, they're just all magical things to eat. The moose, I mean, you know, you're getting this stuff fresh, 100% organic. You know, they shoot a moose, and you know, it's tradition. You know, the first thing you eat is the heart, and having that fresh right there is something that is just one of a kind. I'm trying to think what else we've had. It's just, I mean, anything. If a villager comes up to you and says, "Here's some food," that food is going to be good. And you know, you accept it with a smile on your face and knowing that you're going to get something good.
Kind of weird. No steroids, no preservatives, no antibiotics. It's sure the food. I would love to taste. The salmon is what I dream of eating. But
well, and everyone, there's something more. They're in touch with that food. You know, it's not going to a grocery store and picking something up and you don't know where that came from. A lot of this food they've caught, they've hunted, you know, so there's a pride with it as well. And I think that transfers through to what you're eating.
Now we've had a blast talking to you guys and talking to Stan. What's the last thing you want to tell to Yukon fans and to people, the fans of Stan in Alaska? What do you want to tell them about the project?
Oh man, there's so many things. I think just that it's a unique opportunity. We feel like it's a unique opportunity to be able to tell Stan's story to the fullest extent. There's a lot about Stan that I've learned over the years that hasn't been shown either on TV or elsewhere. And we're really focused on bringing that out because he is a very, very interesting, caring individual that I feel like I have a secret that I want to show the world, and that is Stan Zuray. And with the amount of time I've spent with him and gotten to know him so well, that I want to show that with this project because it's too good to keep, if that makes sense. And I think everyone can maybe learn something from Stan, or at least look at their life maybe a little bit differently through the eyes of Stan and how Stan has lived his life. I know he's changed me, and I want him to hopefully be able to, I don't know the right term, change, help, you know, maybe not even that, just people to learn about him, and maybe they'll look at their life a little bit differently because of what he's done in his life.
Wow. Well, you know what, Ryan and Kari, we thank you so much for doing this with us. It was wonderful talking to you guys. I could go on for another hour. It was fantastic. So Jim and I just want to thank you very much for doing this.
Thank you. We
Thank
really,
you so
really
much for
appreciate
having
it.
us.
Yeah, thank you, Kari. Thank you, Ryan. We're going to put their link to their site, their Facebook page. You guys, this is really important to me. I've followed Stan for years. I've really tried to support anything in any little tiny way that I could. We got another $1,000, and I feel like I'm doing you go online and you see the crazy things that people spend money on. This is something that is real. Stan's story is amazing. You have two hardworking people, Ryan and Kari, and very talented, that have a passion for Stan's story, and we do too. So we ask that you give. We're going to give the link to the site tomorrow morning. We're going to also re-release it next Monday, and please, please, please support this project. Thank you again, Kari, and thank you, Ryan. You guys are an amazing couple, and anything you need in the future, but for right now, let's get this done. Let's get this money so we can get this great project.
Beautiful. Thank you, Jim.
you.
Thank you, Florence. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Take
Thank you.
care, you guys.
You too.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.